really happening in the real estate market? We're going to talk about that right now. So today we're going to be talking about the Markham real estate markets of October 2022. So there's a lot of changes that happened since the last recording. Okay, so the first thing is that the government intervention, right? So first off, the Ford government decided to raise the foreign buyer tax from 20% to 25%. Right now, second component really is the federal government decided to enforce a 2-year ban for foreign buyers starting January 2023. Okay, now there are ways of getting around it. I'm not gonna go into that, but essentially, one way of doing so is having a Canadian owning a corporation of 51%, and the 49% would be a foreign individual. Now they may still be forced to pay a 25% tax, but I'm not an expert on that, but that's expected. Okay, so the second really component that's going to affect the market is the increase in interest rates again, right? It's announced that the government will, the Bank of Canada will announce it again, will increase it again from 0.5 to 0.75%, okay, 75 basis points, despite the 108,000 plus job additions in Canada, okay? Now, really the question is it a seller's market or a buyer's market? And at the end of the day, it really depends on, the micro factors in your market, right? The type of home, the features, finishes, and the location. Okay, this one is going to be talking about, the entire city of Markham, okay? But if you really want more of a detailed explanation, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be able to help. Another factor we need to think about too is where the Ford government announced that they plan on allowing homeowners to have 3 separate dwellings. Okay, so typically you got the main residence, okay, but you also have a basement. Okay, so that's a second dwelling, right? And the third one is the backyard. So you really have 3 separate dwellings, and the municipal government isn't going to be able to do anything about that. Okay, now whether that's going to have an impact or not, we shall see. Especially how there are lots of residences that do rent out their their basement illegally, right? They just don't report it. Okay, so the last thing we should really consider too is the different types of asset classes. Okay, there's a lot of media attention that goes out that the real estate market's crashing, the real estate market's crashing. But if you really compare it to the other types of asset classes like the stock markets and the crypto market, it really hasn't done that bad. Okay, it actually outperformed those two asset classes very well. From October 2022 versus October 2021, the stock market dropped by 29%. The crypto market dropped by over 68%. Okay, so that's really important to notice, because in terms of Markham real estate prices in the same time period, it only dropped by about 8%. Okay, so that's on average of Markham, and we're gonna go into that more shortly. Now, I decided to make the information a little bit more detailed here. Don't get frightened by all these numbers, but coming from a banking background and analyzing tens of thousands of different data points, there is really important to interpret data. Okay, and you can do it in various ways. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to be comparing it to on a month-to-month basis. So October 22 versus September 2022. Also an all-time high. In this case, it's February 2022. Also on a yearly basis, so October 2021 and pre-pandemic numbers of October 2019. Now, I'm only going to go into more detail for Markham overall and touch upon the other types of homes. But if you really are more curious, you can always watch and analyze the numbers yourself as well, or feel free to reach out to me. So let's just dive right into it. Okay, so in Markham here, October 2022, there's 245 homes that were sold, 404 listings. The average price was 1.28 million, and the type of market is 1.65, so that's still a seller's market. Okay, right? Anything less than 5 is a seller's market. From 5 to 6 is a balanced market, and from 6 onwards, that is more of the buyer's market. Okay, so it also took 18 days to sell a home. Okay, so comparing on a monthly basis, it took 5 less days to sell a home in October versus September. It also turned more into a seller's markets, okay, by 18%. And in terms of the average sold prices, it did go up by 6%, okay? And there was more sales that happened, 13% more. Obviously, if you're comparing to all-time highs, right, of February, which was unsustainable, by the way, where money was essentially free still, 356 transactions that did happen, and there was 7% less listings available. Now there was an 18% decrease, okay, about 1.55 million, and the type of market was seller's market, but a lot stronger. It took only half the amount of time to sell a home as well. But remember, as I mentioned earlier, comparing to other asset classes, it's even comparing all-time highs, okay, where prices dropped by 18%, other asset classes dropped by 29% and 68%, okay? Now, when we compare it to a year-to-year basis, right, there was 49% less transactions did happen, okay? And there was less listings, 30% less of 311, right? Where the average price was 1.39 million, and it was a significantly more of a seller's market, even compared to February 2022, okay, of a 0.65. And it only took 13 days to sell a home. Okay, now if you compare to October 2019, right, the pre-pandemic numbers, okay, there was 385 transactions versus 245. Okay, so there was more transactions that were happening pre-pandemic. Okay, there was also more listings. However, the prices did go up by 34%. Okay, and it was still a seller's market, and it took 7 additional days to sell the average Markham home. So this is why I don't think there is going to be an actual market crash, because if you look at sales and the active listings, right? Sales represents the demand, active listings represents the supply. So if you think about it, yes, there was more demand in 2019, but there are also a lot more listings available, right? And yet, despite this, the home price has still gone up substantially, 34%. So is it really the market crashing right now? The numbers don't really support that it does. Okay, it doesn't support it. So now let's just dive into the detached homes, okay, within Markham. So there are 96 transactions that happened, 196 listings available, 1.73 million average sold price. The type of market, still a seller's market, 2.04, and it took 16 days to sell a home. Okay, so obviously here, the number of sales that happened, it increased, okay, on a month-to-month basis, 13 additional sales, okay. It was only 83 transactions that happened the previous month, so a 16% increase, okay. Obviously in October 2021, there's 229, so that's a 58% decrease, okay. Even in February 2022, it was a 38% decrease, but it wasn't the worst, okay. Despite what the media is trying to tell you. In terms of, the active listings, right? There's 168 active listings. Okay, so there was less at the time, okay, versus now. Okay. And comparing to 2019, which was the absolute worst, it had the most active listings, 479. Okay. Very interesting to note. There was let's see here. In terms of the average price, obviously the average price in Markham detaches was 2.126 million, which was all-time high. Okay, and comparing it to the pre-pandemic numbers, you'd still be up 40%. Okay, and in terms of the type of market, again, it's all still a seller's market, not even close right now. And in terms of days on market, February was an all-time high where it was very quick to sell a home, only took 9 days. And pre-pandemic, it took almost a month. Okay, now if we're going into semi-detaches in Markham, right, 17 transactions, 16 active listings, average price was 1.19, and the type of market was still a seller's market of 0.94. And in terms of days on market, it took about only 18 days to sell the average Markham semi-detached. Okay, the numbers are very similar to September, which is why there was no changes. And that was a positive, actually, because if you compare it to, February numbers, 35 homes that sold was the most in February. Okay, there was also a lot more active listings, okay, which is interesting to note. right? Which is why, you know, the type of market was still a 1.14, still a seller's market. But if you compare that to October 2022, it was 18% swing. Okay. Now, in terms of, you know, positives, right? So in terms of, you know, active listings, there was only 13 active listings available in October 2021 on a yearly basis. And in terms of, you know, the type of market, it was 0.43. So it was significantly more of a seller's market at that time period. Okay. And obviously, in terms of the average price, sold price, 872,800 for the average Markham semi-detached at the time. Okay, so now in terms of Markham townhomes, right? October 2022, 57 sales, 25 active listings. Average price was 1.198 million. Type of market was 0.44, and the type of market was still 0.44. Seller's market significantly, and days on market is only 12. Okay. So there was a biggest increase, okay, in sales from September 2022, which is 26, 119% increase, okay, and a 46% decrease in active listings. Okay, that was the most. In terms of the biggest drop is obviously February. Okay, it was 1.47 million for a townhouse in Markham. Okay, and the biggest increase compared to 2019 was 830,000. Okay, in terms of the type of market, you know, February was an all-time highs, yet it was still a seller's market. Okay, it was very interesting to note that, you know, the type of market in October 2022, it was more of a seller's market in the past month versus the February 2022 of 1.25. Okay, because remember, you need to balance it out, supply and demand, right? Sales and active listings. And in terms of, you know, how long it took to sell a home, which is 9 days. Okay, that was the fastest compared to all different time periods. Pre-pandemic numbers was where it took 17 days of 29%. Okay, so it took longer to sell in pre-pandemic numbers, pre-pandemic figures versus now. So the condo townhouses in Markham, okay, October 2022, 20 sales, 41 active listings, 828,000 average sold price. Sold type of market, still a seller's market of 2.05, and it took 21 days to sell. Now, on a month-to-month basis, you know, there was 6 less sales that happened on a month-to-month basis, where September is 26. You know, and the biggest decrease, which is February 2022, and also pre-pandemic numbers of October, was 31 sales, right? So there's 11 less sales that happened in October in Markham, okay? But in terms of active listings, right, October 2021 is 173% increase. Okay, there's more supply, okay, by the most. Okay, in terms of the worst, right, there is only 42 listings, which is very similar. Okay. Okay, so the average price, obviously, it dropped by the most, but in February, 19%. Okay, but it also went up by 23% in pre-pandemic numbers. So obviously, it's still a seller's market, and in terms of, you know, how long it's taking to sell homes, is it taking longer? Sure, on a month-to-month basis, it took actually on a month-to-month basis, it took 9 less days. Okay, but in February, it took only 7 days to sell an average condo townhouse. Okay, so going into condo apartments, right? 49 transactions, 118 listings. Average sold price was 720,649. Type of market is still, you know, seller's market, and it took 24 days to sell a condo apartments. Now, there was a 17% decrease in terms of active sales. Okay, and you know, in October 2021, there was the most, whereas 123 transactions that happened. Okay, now if you look at, you know, the active listings, there was less listings in February of 69 versus 118, and it stayed relatively the same for, you know, on a month-to-month basis of 118, right? So that's good to note. In terms of, you know, the type of market, again, still a seller's market, right? But we are transitioning from, you know, a seller's market to a balanced market. Okay, it's not a buyer's market. Please do not say a buyer's market. I had a conversation the other day with another agent where they put an offer in one of my properties and they said it's about buyer's market, and you know, the conversation didn't end well for them, where I was, you know, representing the facts. In terms of the days on markets, it was 24 versus 26, right? 26 days, 2 additional days, which was the most, okay, compared to the other types of time periods we're looking at. In February, you know, homes are selling very quickly, you know, 8 days, okay, and that's it, okay? So what you can really tell here is that one of the main important points is that the interest rates have gone up substantially, okay? From comparing to October 2019 versus October 2022, interest rates have gone up, okay? But the prices of homes have gone up as well. So when the interest rates will have an impact on home prices, but we can see that on a longer period of time, that's not necessarily the case. On a short period of time, like in February 2022, yeah, of course, home prices have dropped. Okay, so if you were you're looking to buy a home in 2019, you can see that it got a lot more difficult to actually get a home. Even though if you got a pay raise or a job, you know, you moved up in a company. Okay, homes cost more, and it's costing more to borrow in terms of an interest rate level. Okay, not just the dollar value, but the actual percentages as well. So if you find this information useful, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share this with your friends and family, and you know, feel free to reach out if you want more detailed information about your community and your situation. Take care. Bye-bye.